In the deepest, darkest forests of old Transylvania, there was a village so forgotten, it felt lost to time itself. And in this village lived a man named Elias. He wasn't a farmer, or a hunter, or any kind of tradesman. Elias was a sorcerer. The villagers, they never dared to speak his name out loud. They were terrified that just the sound of it would draw his attention. The whispers said Elias could command the winds, summoning storms with just a murmur. They said he could make shadows stretch and twist like serpents, and even speak with the spirits of the dead. Children were warned never to go near his hut, a rickety shack swallowed by the woods. Travelers were told to pass through the forest in absolute silence. Elias was ancient, his skin was as thin and dry as old parchment, and his fingers were long and gnarled like the claws of a bird, but his eyes burned with a fire that time could never put out. He didn't care for gold, or land, or the company of others. Elias craved only one thing, eternal life. One night, the sky bled red. It was the night of the blood moon, and the howls of wolves echoed endlessly through the valley. This was the night Elias had waited for. He prepared for his final, most desperate ritual. The villagers, in their homes, locked their doors and bolted their windows, praying for the sun to rise. From the sorcerer's hut, a thick, choking black smoke billowed out. It smelled foul, and it carried on the wind the cries of voices that were not of this world. The ritual raged all through the night, a symphony of horrors just beyond the tree line. Then, as the first weak light of dawn broke the horizon, silence. A chilling, absolute silence. Finally, the bravest villagers crept toward the sorcerer's hut. What they found was a scene of utter devastation. The hut was empty. The windows were shattered, blown outward, as if something had violently burst free. The walls were stained black with soot, and the air was thick with the smell of iron and decay. In the center of the room, carved into the wooden floor, was a large circle made of salt and blood, and right in the middle of it sat a book. Its cover was bound in what looked disturbingly like human skin, and the writings on its pages seemed to squirm and shift, as if they were alive. No one dared to touch it. For years, the hut lay abandoned, but the village was never the same. Strange things began to happen. Crops would wither and die overnight. Livestock would vanish without a trace. And some villagers swore that in the dead of night, they could hear Elias's voice whispering on the wind, promising power to anyone foolish enough to listen. Generations came and went. The story of Elias the sorcerer faded from a chilling reality into a fireside tale, something to scare children with. The forest reclaimed the ruined hut, wrapping it in a thorny embrace of ivy and vines. It was almost forgotten. But then, one autumn evening, a traveling scholar named Marek arrived in the village. He was a man fascinated by old legends and local folklore. When he heard the story of Elias, he became obsessed. He had to see the place where the sorcerer had lived. Ignoring the desperate warnings of the villagers, Marek pushed his way deep into the forest until he found the crumbling, forgotten hut. Inside, buried beneath layers of dust and rot, he found it. The book, its gruesome cover was cracked with age, but it still pulsed with a faint, unnatural warmth. Against every instinct, against all common sense, Marek pried it open. The words on the page flared like black fire, and a whisper, cold and ancient, curled directly into his ear at last. Someone to finish what I began that night. The terrified villagers once again saw that foul black smoke rising above the trees. They heard the same unearthly cries that had haunted their ancestors centuries before. By dawn, the scholar was gone. When the villagers crept back into the woods, the hut was silent once more. The book had vanished. The only thing that remained was the circle of salt and blood, looking as fresh as if it had just been drawn. The curse of Elias had not ended. It had only passed on, and somewhere out there, in the world beyond that forgotten village, his voice is still whispering, searching for the next soul to claim. Thank you so much for joining me on this chilling tale. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the dark. Until next time, stay safe.